Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us yet again on this Mortgage Monday Minute with Linda May Tomko, Home Financing Advisor with Scotia Bank, and myself, Alex Ward, broker owner of Maxwell Devonshire Realty. And we're going to do things a little bit differently for you today. Instead of just having Linda May talk about one particular product, we're going to go back and forth and actually talk about some real life scenarios where what she's discussing is actually come to fruition and why it's so important to actually have a true pre-approval and the difference between pre-approved and yeah, you're approved.
Yeah.
So, Linda May, let's talk first about what the Scotiabank way of getting a pre-approval done is, and then you and I can chat a little bit later.
So when we do a pre-approval, we would ask for all the documents. So if you're working with me specifically, I would email you a list of items that I would need. We would have a conversation beforehand about what it is that you do for income, because not everybody's income is the same. Some people obviously are salaried, some people, are self-employed, some people have dividend income, some people have a combo of the two. And then there's retirement income or other forms of income. And so we would look at all that. And then I would devise a plan on what documents I will need from you. So I would take in those documents, review those documents, and actually put an application on the system just like you would be purchasing a home. But I would just be using round numbers. And then we would pull credit, put that on the system as well, and it would go for an underwriter review. So the only thing that would be missing would be the property that you're purchasing, in order for you to move forward with an applic or with a purchase. What that does on our end of things is it quickens the purchasing time. So when you're writing an offer, you don't have to have as long of a financing clause because we've already looked at all the documents. So we've looked at your income, we've looked at your credit, we've looked at your affordability. And as long as you stay as a buyer, or even as an agent, as long as you're helping your clients stay within that kind of budget that I've given, then you should be good to move forward. Of course, there is the odd time where the house doesn't meet our standards, and then we may pull back approval based on the home. But if we've looked at the income already and pulled credit, it's probably pretty good chance that we're going to move forward with the application unless you're buying something, that doesn't fall under our standards as far as housing. Um, I have seen, some pre-approvals out there, or what they call pre-approvals, where it's just what I call it is number crunching. So, people will be like, I don't want my credit pulled, or, I did not provide any income documents. And as far as I'm concerned, that is not a pre-approval. Like, anybody could just do that, right? Like, if you're not providing any sort of income documents, we have not pulled credit, what exactly are we looking at? Like, unless you are salaried and your pay stub matches your letter of employment exactly, um, if I would recommend you always provide income documents.
Yeah, and the other key thing here is a pre-approval does not guarantee approval. So we're especially in a hot market like that we're seeing right now.
Right.
There's a lot of unconditional or no financing offers to purchase that are being made with the
Right.
assumption that the approval will be a slam dunk.
Yes, yes. And I mean, here's the thing. Nothing's ever gonna, I'm never gonna be like, this is going to be a slam dunk. Either it gives you peace of mind that we have looked at the income, because if the income is completely, out of whack, which, some people, for example, have maybe taken RSP income and their T1s are showing a bulked up, amount on their income, we can't use that, whereas maybe they're using that in their number crunching, right? So that comes into play, with the hot market that we have in Alberta right now. We're going into multiple offers on a lot of these purchases. If you're going in without having your income being checked by your lender, you're putting your deposit at risk, especially if you're, writing an unconditional offer. Like, that is that that's scary,
Yeah.
in
And
my
the other
opinion.
advantage of a pre-approval, especially in a market like this, is that you can get a pre-approval letter written for you. So then that helps give you the seller more confidence that you've actually gone through the process. And it's a pre-approved letter by a lender that actually has some validity and they have some trust in, knowing that yes, this is when this is written and when it's seen, it's a major institution that wrote this. They're not going to be just willy-nilly writing these things. So it can actually help you in that multiple offer with having that letter.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
We've
yeah,
seen
as
too many times. I mean, I guess we'll go down since we're talking about this. When you get your pre-approval, don't change your situation,
oh yeah,
right?
yeah.
So you
Yes,
get your pre-approval letter a month ago and then you go and buy a car a week before you put your offer to purchase down. Your pre-approval letter doesn't mean anything.
right. And yeah,
Mm.
exactly. Your pre-approval means nothing unless you can debt service for that new vehicle, right? Because all the debt servicing has changed and the credit has changed. The other things that I've seen, you have a pre-approval letter, but now you've changed your job. So that's not as big of a deal if you're sticking within the same industry and we can confirm job letter and stuff. But if you have, gone completely different industry, you don't have a pre-approval anymore because you're not in the same job that you were.
Yeah.
So just because, you have a pre-approval, I would recommend if you're planning on making a purchase, don't make any major changes until that purchase is done.
Yeah.
And then do whatever you want.
Buy the car, buy the
Yeah.
furniture after you've taken possession of the house.
Exactly.
Yeah, because the dealership don't care about your financial situation nearly as much as the bank does. Um,
No, they don't
or
have the same
mortgage.
standards like from a federal level either, right? Like they don't have the same, qualifying standards that we do when we're writing a mortgage, we have to fall under all these federal regulations. Dealership financing, they don't have that, right? So
Yeah,
you can purchase a home and then literally walk in the next day and purchase the car and nothing's going to change, right? So
yep. And
but
the
if you
other
do it
big
the other
one,
way, you
yeah,
may not get your
absolutely.
house.
Yeah, yeah. What's more important? The place you're sleeping, unless you really get a really nice car to sleep in. But the other big thing is where we see a lot of mortgage approvals not get approved is proof of deposit, income verification. Those are the major two. So that's why a pre-approval with a place like Scotiabank is so important because it'll actually determine whether or not you have the deposit. Will it
Right.
qualify to be able to be used as a deposit? And if it doesn't, talk about strategies to get you there for you to be able to write, right? You
Exactly.
can say you
Yeah.
have the 5%. Yeah, I have the 5%, but it's in a bunch of different spots, hasn't been there for 90 days. Yeah, it's in this sector. Oh, it's actually in cash underneath the couch. Yes, that does happen. And yes,
Yeah.
that does not count for your deposit because it has to be in an
No.
institution and in a bank account for 90 days and verified for that period of time. So you have the money, but you don't really have the money. So we see a lot of those where it puts the deal at risk on the
Yep.
last second. And then that's a dream crusher. When you think you're
100%.
big, and it makes no one in the transaction look good. Buyer feels horrible, agent as a realtor doesn't feel good either. It's hard to then get someone motivated to want to buy another house once the deposit's good, and then the lender doesn't look good either, right? So
Right.
it's not a good look for anyone.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, even, having deposits in multiple places is fine, but we do have to verify every every dollar that is being used for a down payment. So when you have multiple transactions going in and out of account, we have to verify that. So I've had some people that have given me screenshots of, hey, this is the money that I have in the bank. Well, that actually doesn't qualify. We need a 90-day history on that money. So that's something, in a pre-approval, we can kind of weed out those things right off the hop, right? If it's something that, we're waiting on that 90 days for the money to sit there, or we, have something, in there that we just need to clarify, or maybe you have money, you just want to move it all into one investment, just to keep the process a little simpler. We can weed all that out in a pre-approval when we have that conversation. When you do things, and don't get me wrong, I mean, there are other lenders that do pre-approvals as well, but when you do the online ones specifically, you're not having that face-to-face conversation, and they're not weeding that out. They're literally taking your income, literally taking the amount that you're purchasing and saying, yes, you can buy that. They're not pulling your credit. So they're not taking into account that loan payment that you have for your vehicle, or that credit card that you have, or line of credit, or student loans, or whatever. They're not taking any of that into play. And they're saying, yes, based off the money that you've told us, because you've never actually provided us any sort of income documentation, you can afford this house. That's it. So whereas we do the whole thing, it is actually an application. We put it all together just like we would for when you're actually purchasing a home, and we send it into an underwriter. So you have, my eyes that are viewing the income docs, and then you also have an underwriter viewing it as well. The only place where it does not go for pre-approval through our lending practices is it does not go to the insurer until you actually write an offer on a property. So this is where you were talking, Alex, before, where it's not a guarantee. So if you were putting 5% down or less than 20% down on a house, that it's ultimately still up to the insurer. But if we have looked at the documents from, we're a huge organization, right? So if we've looked at those documents and said, yes, we are ready to move on it, more than likely the insurers are going to follow us with that. It would just be, maybe coming down to that property.
Yeah, yeah. Whether they've appraised it at the same as the purchase price, or if it's a condo, has it been flagged from previous things? Those are major reasons most lenders, after you approve it, they won't approve it. But
I have had some stuff come up, though. It was a weird situation where clients had a bankruptcy and it was previous to 7 years. So it wasn't showing on credit. And we sent it to the insurer. And this is a one-off situation, but it actually got auto approved at the insurer, because that does happen. And then they made some changes. So they did an amendment, a price amendment. We had to send it back to the insurer, and the insurer looked at it, did a hard review on it. And they had a bankruptcy and had an insurer foreclosure in the past. And so it killed the deal. So those are things, just to note, right? Like, those are things to note. If you get an approval and you know that you've had a credit issue in the past, don't make any changes.
yeah, But I'm Alex Ward, broker owner of Maxwell Devonshire Realty. This has been Linda May Tomko, home financing advisor with Scotia Bank, talking to you today about why the pre-approval process is so important, and the difference between an actual pre-approval and an online or just number crunching. Yeah, you're good to go. Approval. So we're going to be here next week. Make sure you hit that like button, smash that subscribe button so you don't miss a single moment of content, because we are going to be back next Monday. See you then, everyone.
Have a great day.